It's like trying to win a car race.
Should be a good one.
And as you're driving, saying, hey, make it run better.
You could have a posse of waifus.
Starting off kind of strangely.
Slaying the land.
Welcome to the show.
This is insanity.
Taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week.
This info is pretty shocking.
Somebody's got to give an answer to this.
This is Augmented Reality.
You are watching my favorite channel.
I've not heard of them.
The Triple S League. Enjoy, guys.
How do, everybody? Welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast for April 13th, 2021. This is your source for news, leaks, and analysis of games and the gaming industry, coming at you live on YouTube and Twitch and archived almost anywhere you can find podcasts, be that iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and a whole bunch of other places it gets distributed to that I'm not even aware of. This is Ash here with you, with Cybsidian and Moontag as always. Welcome to the Tuesday/Wednesday show. Doing this show very, very late in North America, so that our friends way over in the East have something they can listen to live, plus then it's just available early on Wednesday for everybody else. So, welcome to the show. Cyb, Moon, how are you doing tonight?
Good. I also have a new thingy to talk about too. That's not on the list because I just found out about it.
Okay, new topic. So,
Yeah.
All right, we'll jump into that. Moon, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Been diving into some of the RPG stuff. I've been firing up Baldur's Gate and giving that a go because Timebeat has been going nuts over it. I'm very, very interested in romancing these characters and finding out what for. And so far I'm being very, very distracted exploring and trying to pick up party mates.
Party mates to romance. No, that's cool. I'm glad you're into that game. Yeah. I have not had much chance to look at it myself. Been busy with other stuff, but yeah, it's quite big in our community. So yeah, there's a room there. If anyone's interested in it, you can join our Discord server and find some pretty hardcore Baldur's Gate 3 fans that you can chat with if you're interested. Speaking of the Discord community, what do you have to say about that?
Join us. Join the Discord for more shenanigans and other fun stuff. Because not only do we have gaming related stuff, we have a food pick channel and animal pick channel. If you want a little more escapism. Yes. I totally went on a binge of tiny food videos, which also led to tiny animal videos and just tiny everything. I just found a spider that looks like it's wearing a bunny dog mask or something. It looks so cute. It's called a bunny harvester spider. So cute. Now I want to play a game with a spider in it.
Extremely poisonous. Will definitely eat your face off.
Well, I was going to say, it's not when you were talking about tiny, cute animals, was not expecting poisonous spider to be on your list. But anyway, hello, Funky, listening at 6 a.m., and everyone else listening live, wherever you are in the world, on YouTube and or Twitch. And if you're listening after the fact, we welcome you as well. And please, everybody, slam that like button if you haven't already. We're going to get into our topics here, but please do that to tell YouTube that you appreciate this content. And we like it too. Plus the like button's feeling lonely, so it wants some slammage. Or, a gentle click works too. Whatever you're into there. Whatever you're into. Okay. So, kind of a big story to talk about with Sony. Nothing, not like an event that's taken place, but just the direction that the company is going is just very baffling right now. And it's making us wonder how exactly they intend to compete with, especially Microsoft, but even Nintendo. When they can't compete with Nintendo on their home turf in Japan anymore. No. It doesn't seem like they can compete with Sony and Xbox, and it really seems like it all comes down to some very bizarre management decisions. Now, did you want to talk about that first, or did you want to talk about this news story you have, Cyb?
So we can get into the new thing whenever. This is so we'll stick with the Sony thing for now. This is what I have been saying for a while now.
Yes, absolutely.
And over a year and a half, I have been harping on this issue, and we are seeing the gradual destruction of Sony, and the preparations. Yeah, they're not hurting for cash right now, but they didn't make nearly as much money as they were hoping for. and they've lost out in a lot of key markets that they used to have dominance over. And so now you're starting to see the setup. If they fail this transition any more than what they've already done, they will continue to slide, and we may see the inevitable collapse of Sony as a company.
So
I'm
let's
sure
talk
it'll
about.
be. I'm sure it'll be bought out. I'm sure it'll be something that'll happen to it. But we are witnessing the real danger and risk of Sony shooting themselves into the foot so badly that they cannot recover.
Now, are
And
we
they're
talking
doing
about just Sony's gaming division, or are we talking about Sony at the larger company? Because I mean, we have.
well, like I said, it's a huge company, and there are parts of it that are good money makers, and those will continue going for sure. But like this, the PlayStation side of the company may run into some serious issues that will render it essentially bankrupt. At the rate that they are going, this is a strong possibility. And again, this has been going on for a while, to the point where, like, I've been saying this for a while, and some people said, this is ridiculous. They aren't losing in Japan. That's a ridiculous theory. That it's just the COVIDs and all of the other issues. That's why people aren't picking up the consoles in stores there. No, at this point, you have to admit it. The news is in. The details are down. Sony has lost in Japan. There are almost as many Xboxes being sold there as there is Sony machines, which is insane to say. That never would have happened. That never has happened ever before. Xbox was always a minor fraction of the game devices being sold in that country. And now you've got almost as many of them as you do have PlayStations. So A, that's huge, and B, you have this you have Nintendo just moving in, taking over their stuff. Remember how we talked about these game developers and these people making these like really long, crazy hard, more traditional, very Japanese culture based JRPGs. It's like before you used to get those on PlayStation. Well, now you can get them on PlayStation because PlayStation was yanking their chain so much, sending their codes back over and over and over again, saying, well, there's something wrong with it. You need to fix it. And they're like, well, what do we need to fix? It's like, I don't know. You tell me. How dare you not be aware of how, quote unquote, woke you have to be in this particular area or that particular area, or doing this thing or doing that thing. How dare you not be aware of what's going on? You cowardly fool. And it's like, what? Wait, what? Like what? Like these developers were literally shocked by the responses that they got. They were floored by some of the reactions that they got. Some of their reactions came back in English. Like these developers who have been working with this Japanese company for the last like decade or more, were sending them daily reports, or not daily reports, monthly or semi, annually reports every year or so, like that, working on these games, getting this stuff up, and they would be responded to by somebody, speaking Japanese, and sending them a reply and saying, yes, of course, blah, 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 blah. Here's what you need to do. We're really excited to host your next game, et cetera, et cetera. Now they get somebody speaking to them in English who's just like, one of these guys said that he was never so insulted in his life. He sent his thing out, and they came back to him with like an attack, saying, "How dare you?" Essentially, that's what it boiled down to in English. Like the guy was never informed that he was having his contact at Sony changed. He's just suddenly like, "How dare you? You perv!" Basically, is what it boiled down to. And it's like,
is this somebody you know personally? Because I know you
yes,
do have. You have contact with, what you're talking about. I'm just, kind of establishing the bona fides here. Saib is in contact with many, many Japanese developers. So,
it's just horrifying being on the, like, from his perspective, he's like, I didn't think I would ever see the day when Sony would treat me like this. Like, what did I do something wrong? And he's trying to figure out what he's done wrong. And like, you know, he doesn't sell the game to kids. Like, he sells the game to adults. It's like, and at some point you've got to ask yourself, why is this happening this way? But at any rate, it's absolutely shocking and horrifying for him, for these other people, these developers who've put their life and their life and their years and years, decades of work into making this thing work, into building up their companies. Well, most of them are now moving on. They're not publishing under Sony and PlayStation anymore. Now they're putting their games out on Nintendo, and Nintendo is now publishing a lot of these games that have like have a pretty high rating, because it's for adults, but they trust that there's this thing called like an adult at home who can figure out how to like install what games under what accounts, and how to use like an adult filter to filter out games that you don't want your kids playing. I mean, I don't want my kids playing. I wouldn't want a 5-year-old playing Doom. Like, not because I don't think that
or Witcher
that kind
3,
of,
Witcher
3, Witcher 2, Witcher 1.
Any of the
Witcher 1.
all of these games, we've been talking about this for years. All these games moving to Nintendo. Some of them fairly surprising. It's not becoming very surprising anymore. But we also recently talked about some JRPGs that are making their debut on the Xbox, and this is another unusual thing that we wouldn't have seen a number of years ago, or even a number of months ago, I think, is what you say, if I'm remembering your comments on the situation accurately. But we had PlayStation move its headquarters moved to the United States. So if anyone's not aware, it's not managed and headquartered in Japan anymore. Sony Interactive Entertainment is headquartered in the United States.
Mm-hmm. And for
very different culture, very different sensibilities in terms of what's appropriate. And again, like the Japanese developers forced to communicate in English, which many of them, that's not their native language. And really, why would they? Like Saib said, they were used to doing correspondence in Japanese, and suddenly everything changes. They're getting feedback on inappropriate content in their games and not being told why. So this is largely stuff we've covered before, but we've got some other additional information now. And Jason Schreier has a new article out, and like I told, I DM'd this to Saib earlier, and I was like, dude, Schreier right now in this article is confirming everything you have said about Sony in the past couple of years, at least. Yep. It was crazy.
I think I mentioned a while ago that there was an internal power struggle, and people were being purged from the company. And we have some of this big news dropping today. This isn't new news as in like, oh my God, this is breaking right now. This is news as in like, we saw this coming a while ago. We knew, like, if you were in the places and listening to the people who were in positions to talk about this stuff, we knew about this ages ago.
And this is yes. And it kind of centers around one major issue with a lot of sub-issues. But the big thing is that Sony is putting all of their focus into these major blockbusters. For example, the Naughty Dog developers and their Last of Us Part 2 massive budget blockbuster games. That's where Sony's focus is. It's getting more narrow, focusing on those heavy hitters at the expense of smaller teams, innovation, smaller games, smaller studios, and games that have traditionally been very successful in Japan, but not necessarily in other parts of the world. Sony's just turning around and neglecting Japan at this point.
Yeah, because again, they aren't happy with the games that are being made, and you're like, well, oh my goodness, like, are these like adult games that I hear about? People whisper in you go out into the forest and you listen very carefully and you hear people talk about, Senua. You're like, oh no, oh dear, and you clutch your pearls and you're like, oh no.
That's we're not talking about
whatever shall we do? Oh, it's not those games. It's not. It's some of, like, obviously it includes those games, but what we're really talking about, what we're really showcasing here, is that this is happening to. I mean, there was a cooking game that got axed. There was a not axed as in like revoked. Like they got pushed out, and they moved over to exclusively to Nintendo. And a lot of these other like JRPG types, like these more traditional JRPG types, it's just a little bit of an older engine, but it's a unique story. It's telling a unique thing. A lot of these visual novels, a lot of them are moving to Steam and to Nintendo because they present their game to the company, and they have like a little like risque scene that's very lightly risque, as in like, it's like this beautiful like animation or like anime art of like a girl kissing a boy or something like that, or they're having a romantic moment, and it's like it's very tame. It's very tame. Most cultures look at that and go, "There's nothing wrong with that," right? Like it's that level stuff. We're not talking like Day at the Squid Market. We're talking like just regular things that people go over, and somebody's like, censor it. We can't have. I mean, I can see possibly a half an inch of butt crack, just above her skirt line. That is unacceptable, sir.
Get them lens flares in there. Need more lens flare. It's like that. It's like that old SNL sketch. Needs more cowbell. Yeah. No, needs more lens. I've got a fever, and the only prescription is more lens flares.
Yeah, and it's just that it's that nonstop that's been going on, and we can track it down to basically this power shift within the company, how these people were forced out, and how we've had this new blood come in and be like, oh well, we're going to do something that we want to do, and if you don't like it, well, pooey you, sir, pooey you indeed. And it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare for so many people, and it's getting worse every single day. And these games, these companies, they are losing out on this, on their customers. They've lost track of some of their customers. Some of their customers, have moved on, and that sucks, and it sucks for everybody. But the question is why? Why are you cutting out these games? Like, why not just have them there, right? Like, if they're not, if they're part of the culture, like, why not have them there? After all, it's a lot of these smaller studios that start out small that end up growing and growing and growing and growing and end up developing some of these top tier games. Like, you look at, a lot of these studios that have made these like hit games for them, and a lot of cases they have grown like really well, but they've taken time. They've taken a decade or more.
Well, yeah, Naughty Dog didn't start out pumping out billion-dollar blockbusters.
Well, I mean, no. Naughty Dog is not the good example here.
No, I'm just saying, but that's
it's the Uncharted. It's the Horizon Zero Dawn. Those are the studios that started out small and slowly grew over a decade.
Sure.
Naughty Dog basically sprung up overnight. Like when you're looking at the companies that are at Sony and that make games for Sony, Naughty Dog is a new thing. Like that's a relatively new small company.
I thought
that's been around for less than a decade.
Okay.
No. And it's this is the thing that this forced like growth. And what we're seeing now is that yes, Naughty Dog is an older studio, but what we're seeing now is that they're trying to replicate that experience by crunching it down to even smaller amounts of time. So now you have even smaller, bigger super studios being built up, being handed a ton of money, and being like, make a AAA blockbuster video game within 2 years. Do it now. And it's like, this isn't without a cohesive team that's been working together for a long time. The likelihood that you're going to see something good in these scenarios is next to nothing. But this is what Sony has been doubling down with. They haven't been opting for slow, positive growth of these companies that slowly grow with the dedicated community that works and essentially lives and works together. You look at some of the tightest studios on the planet. Bethesda is probably one of the tightest studios on the planet. Everybody knows everybody who works at Bethesda, Maryland. It is an incredibly tight-knit, very small community of developers. It is not big. They had, like, for the longest while, and I think this is still the case, they still have Sunday brunches together, like as families. Like, obviously not recently with the whole thing in Mobobby, but they had been having Sunday lunch brunches together for a very long time. These people knew each other. They know their kids play together regularly. These are people who've been at the same studio. The bulk, over, I think it's over 80% of the studio that was there when they made Elder Scrolls, not Oblivion, the one before that.
Daggerfall.
Was it Daggerfall?
Oh no, Morrowind. Morrowind.
Yeah.
Daggerfall was too. Yeah.
So I don't know these numbers 100%. This is. I need to double check this, but the vast majority of developers who worked on Morrowind are still there. Mm-hmm. The vast majority, 80% of the developers who worked on Naughty Dog's first Last of Us, the first Last of Us game, which only came out like 8 years ago. That the team that made that game, 80% of them left. Are not at the company anymore. Period.
Yeah. Well, and the reason that I mentioned Naughty Dog is because Sony is bending over backwards for Naughty Dog right now, which you have to wonder about. But I mean, there's no question that they are profitable, at least right now in the short term. But I think it's short-sighted for Sony to be, again, taking its focus off of a huge player base in Japan, first of all. Winding down studios like Japan Studio, which is responsible. I've got so Japan Studio that put out, small titles like Shadow of the Colossus and Bloodborne. I mean, no biggie. Not to mention tons and tons of others.
Nothing substantial to the history of video games.
Sarcastic. Japan Studio has such a history with the legacy of PlayStation games. So many of them came from Japan Studio, and but tons of people, including studio heads, have departed that company as of early 2021, and because Sony had not renewed their contracts for a lot of games outside of very few, so a lot of people left that, and then we have some other examples from some more Western companies, and Schreier goes into a few of them in this article here. We have the Visual Arts Service Group, which was basically this small team formed within Sony to work on a remake. We talked about this on a recent podcast, to work on a remake of The Last of Us, like the first Last of Us for PlayStation 5. But basically, this didn't go. We talked about this because you had said Neil Druckmann actually requested that this happen, that they actually moved.
That is the rumor.
That's the rumor. So anyway, this sort of self-motivated team was working on this, but Sony basically took it out of their hands and gave the Last of Us remake to Naughty Dog. So
that's the rumor.
Well, that is what happened. The rumor is that Neil Druckmann, the head of the studio there, wanted that to happen. And in another example, we have Sony Bend, which is called that because it's based in Bend, Oregon. They developed
with these names.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity.
Well, it comes up. Look, that's the name of the town. It's like Bethesda, Maryland. Well, Sony Bend, right?
I guess.
It's in Bend.
Bethesda is just a way better, very old name. Like, I mean, that's a freaking ancient name. I mean, that goes back to, gosh, that's a 4,000-year-old name.
Mm-hmm.
Bend. I mean, I guess that's old in the sense of,
It's the name of the city. Jeez, okay, get off.
Caveman Joe bent his knee. I mean, I get.
So
I know.
The Sony studio in Bend, Oregon, that developed Days Gone, tried to pitch a sequel to Days Gone 2, which Days Gone was, I guess, financially successful, but had mixed reviews as far as critical reception, and so Sony decided to pass up on Days Gone 2. So while they're doing, at the same time that they're doing a remake of The Last of Us, the first Last of Us, which, I mean, at this point, only 8 years after it first released on the, I guess that would have been the PlayStation 3, is a remake already worthwhile for that? But they're passing up on Days Gone 2, and instead they wanted this Sony Bend studio. One team at the studio was assigned to help, guess who? Naughty Dog. On a multiplayer project, while the other team was also assigned to help Naughty Dog. No, they were assigned to work on a new Uncharted game with supervision from Naughty Dog. So this is what I mean. Naughty Dog's popping up everywhere, and Sony's just all about Naughty Dog right now. So a lot of people decided to leave Sony Bend, and one of the things they feared was that they might be absorbed into Naughty Dog, which I can see being a terrifying prospect at this point if you are.
Because again, what we have and what we know is that if you said, hey, your company is probably going to be absorbed into Naughty Dog, as a developer, you look for the exit as fast as humanly possible. Because that is a job that will crush your spirit and will make you quit the industry altogether. Again, this isn't an opinion. This is a fact by the majority of people who have talked about working at the studio, and why the majority of them have left working at that studio, because the concept of working under Neil Druckmann is so terrifying for most people that they just quit. This is a company who can't even hire new people, because new people just coming out of college, even in a situation like this, most of them are told, do not go there. You will be paid next to nothing. You will be yelled at, screamed at, and be treated with absolute terrifying behavior. Again, this is what we're hearing from people in the industry. This is what we hear from everybody, and I mean, this has pretty much been confirmed by the fact that they can't even retain people right now.
Yeah.
So it's bad. It's really bad. And for them to just kind of sit there and for certain people within the industry to sit there and go, oh no, everything's fine. There's no fire behind me. Everything is fine. It's like that dog gif. It's like, everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. This is fine.
I'm not.
The funny thing is that right now it seems like it's Sony that's the dog in that scenario, while everything's burnt. We talked about last week about putting all the eggs in one basket. That seems to be what they're doing. And there's one huge basket called Naughty Dog. Now, there's, of course, Sony has other big hitter studios too, but they're neglecting. Their focus is narrowing onto that, and so we look at this. And by the way, there's a little bit of good news for Bend, because they asked to be taken off the Uncharted project. Now, this is after a whole bunch of people have already left. But they asked to be taken off of this Uncharted project with supervision from Naughty Dog, and their request was granted. They're now apparently working on a new IP there, so that's interesting. So some good news. But you look at this just in general. So we've got Sony kind of neglecting its smaller developers, not interested in games that are big in Japan but not everywhere else in the world. They only want these massive blockbusters that cost hundreds of millions of dollars and then make back hundreds of, even more hundreds of millions of dollars. That's all they want, it seems. The small stuff they're not interested in. Is this really short-sighted? I think it is. I mean, not only can small games can become huge hits. I mean, for heaven's sake, look at Roblox. Look at Minecraft, Among Us,
Minecraft is a good example of this, and this is where Microsoft is doubling down on what they know is good. Look, for big company, for any big company, and you're like, okay, can we spend? Can we blow? Can we literally just blow like $20 million a year? Well, we're $1 billion company, so 20 million is nothing. It's chump change. All right, go out and buy every single small company, small developer team. You say, what's your budget like? What do you need? What do you how is how are things going? What's your cost? What's your expenditures? They lay it all down, and they're maybe they're not breaking even. Maybe they're barely holding together. It's like, look, okay, here's what we're going to give you. We're going to give you enough to make sure that you don't have to worry about rent. We're going to take care of all your infrastructure, like tech costs, like computers, hardware, servers, backup, all that kind of stuff. We're going to give you a support guy, and we're going to give you enough money to hire another artist and a handful of other positions and things that you have need of. And then you're getting enough to run your company. Is that all right? Is this good? And we're going to set you up for like a 5 or 10 year contract. Like it's really good. Like their contracts have been like really good. Or we're going to buy you out, and you're going to be your guaranteed stuff for the next few years. It's like that's a godsend for a lot of these companies, and they're like, oh, okay, yes, this works. So then they put their nose to the grindstone, and hey, if you do that with 20 or 30 companies, yeah, you might not have 20 or 30 hits on your hand, but all it takes is one hit to get as big as like Minecraft. And that $20 million investment over the course of a few years has turned into $1 billion industry. That's what they're doing. That's called there's an investment term where that's investment thing. You go and you find companies that are struggling, that look like they're about to go under, or like new pop-up ideas with people pitching ideas to you, and you're like, all right, I'm going to invest $10,000 in all of these companies, and you pick 20 or 30 of them and you invest that money in it. And then, typically you lose out on 80 to 90 to 95% of those companies. It's a total wash. You lose everything. But on one or two of those companies, you come back with like $1 million. And you're like, oh, well, that was a good investment of like $200,000.
Mm-hmm.
More than doubled your money. Now, again, this is a very loose explanation of a common tactic that a lot of investor types use.
Yeah, I mean this is not exactly the same. Like
yeah, it's not exactly the same, but this is essentially the premise for that show Shark Tank, right? So
so Microsoft is kind of casting a wide net, buying up a lot of studios. Knowing not all of them, I don't think. The prediction, so Saib's not saying that 80% of those studios are going to fail, but a lot of them might break even or not make a ton of money, but Microsoft is banking on a few of them having huge returns.
But it's also about community.
This is the other thing I was going to say. It's also about community. It's also about having a vast variety of games. And this is what I think Sony's not thinking about. How many people might have been Sony PlayStation loyalists because they had this huge variety of games they could play, some of them really big titles and some of them small stuff that don't ever become humongous, but you've got those options there. So Sony's eliminating that side of their market, while Microsoft and Nintendo's now snapping up a bunch of that, but Microsoft is doing the exact opposite. And with their Game Pass, they're just trying to put so much stuff on there, so that you can play like anything you want. You will never play all the games that are on Game Pass, but you can play whatever you want.
You could try, but it's going to be there for a while.
Well, and they're good. They're going to be adding more than you can possibly ever play. So, you can play maybe you want to play just a whole bunch of little indie games and not fork out $5 to $6 for each one, or $20 to $30 for each one, but you can play a different game every day. No need for demos anymore, because you have. And again, I'm not trying to shill for Microsoft here. I'm just saying this is a good strategy, and Sony is doing the opposite.
I'm not. Yeah, we're not super huge fans of Microsoft. I can promise you, I am horrified at what Mr. Gates is currently doing right now. Like what he's currently doing the current project that you have not heard about that he is doing right now, unless you're in certain circles, is horrifying to me. It is legitimately horrifying. You know, it has nothing to do with.
Now, there's a bit of it. I mean, we're talking about Bill Gates, the person, versus Microsoft, the company.
He's not heading Microsoft anymore. But even that connection to his way of thinking really gives me pause. Like, really gives me a lot of concern, because I am honestly worried about stuff. And it doesn't fill my heart with, like, you know, a steady feeling of like, oh yes, I'm sure we're in good hands in some of these scenarios. It really doesn't. I really don't feel very secure at times, and it's a little worrisome. Yes, the kitty agrees with me too. It's like it's concerning. So yes, no, we're not shilling for these big companies, but we're also not, you know. We also see the writing on the wall for, like, basic logical, like, coherent strategy. And what you have in Microsoft is you have a very coherent logical strategy that is being used to create and foster a huge community of games and game developers.
And that's even just looking at it from the perspective of a gamer, as I've said many times. As of this year, it's not even a question. If I was going to go to console, like, have to choose between either the PS5 or the new Xbox, it's not even a question that I would go with Xbox. Yeah,
because there's just so much stuff. I mean, there is like 20 some odd games that were added recently to the Xbox Pass, and you had 2 games, one of them being Avengers, added to the Sony one. I gotta say, which of those 2 would you like to pick? Do you want to play Marvel's Avengers, that trash game, that absolutely trash game that is just garbage, just absolute garbage? Would you rather play that, or would you rather play like 20 other, have the option to play 20 indie games? I mean, even if it was just indie games, it's like, it's hands down same money. Like what? It's not even a choice.
Yeah, the value for money, just straight up value for money. You're not getting it with what Sony's offering at the moment. But and then you look at how and it kind of shows their desperation, the way they propped up Last of Us 2.
Oh yeah, like, it really, 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 really does show desperation.
It makes you wonder why they're continuing to go in that direction. It was like it started to look like this has to succeed, or they're just, the desperation they seemed to show to the point where they were copyright striking anyone who was talking about the leaks. Not even showing the leaked footage, but just talking about the leaks. They were copyright striking, which is abuse of the copyright system. There's no hands down. Now, but they think they can get away with it because they're to the point where one of Sony's own Twitter accounts got copyright struck by the people they had contracted to do the copyright striking.
It's like a Marx Brothers. Is it Marx Brothers? Who did the Three Stooges? Was that
Three Stooges?
Marx Brothers? Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, we're going back to the silent film.
Aren't they their own thing though?
No, back in the day, it was there was a comment. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The stupidity though is that it's literally that scenario of like a bunch of idiots running around hitting themselves with rubber hammers. It's like exactly. It's like that's the comedic value of what was going on here, and it was, again, it's frightening for people who actually have any like interest in actual, like, journalistic ethics. I love how the question of journalistic ethics just vanished ages ago and will never be seen again. It's like, it's so sad. It's so sad. Like, all the problems that we have, you can literally track it to, just not too long ago. But yeah, it's a massive concern, because we're here seeing this stuff and we're here asking these questions, and this kind of stuff is just not going anywhere. So it's bad. It's very bad. And yeah.
Just to kind of wrap up the final sort of nail in the final sort of rubbing salt in the wound of Sony's attitude toward China. Back in late 2020, this was reported that Sony is decided to swap the confirm and cancel buttons. That, you know, in Japan it was the reverse of what it was in the West. Basically, the X and the circle buttons, you know, one was confirm, one was cancel, and I don't know which was which, but whatever. It was in Japan. It was swapped from what it was in North America and the rest of the world since the beginning, and now for the PlayStation 5, they're switching it to conform to the rest of the world. So Japan doesn't even get to keep that, and trust me, I know how infuriating it is. When you're used to certain buttons, and it happens on, I don't know, it's just happening to me on the Switch with certain games where it's like the confirm and cancel buttons are reversed from what I'm used to, and it drives me crazy.
Yep.
And so I feel for this. This is really, yes, okay, this is not, you know, it's not the end of the world, but it's annoying, and it's probably, it just kind of shows that, like, they've just...
Well, it's sort of like, you know, you can assume that that's how the British feel when they look at, you know, everything that America does. It's like, why are you driving on the wrong side of the road, you nitwit?
Oh yeah, that's exactly the same. That's exactly the same.
It's exactly the same. But no, seriously, this stupidity is like, it's affecting everything, and it's really upsetting to a lot of like core people who've been, you know, at the base of this studio, or at the base of this company for a long time, and they can't recognize it anymore, and that's sad for a lot of them.
Yeah. All right, you are listening to the Augmented Reality Podcast. We love seeing everybody so active in the live chat, especially at this odd time to be doing this live stream. We've got some viewers on YouTube. We've got some viewers on Twitch. We appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Feel free to ask questions, give comments as we go. And if you're watching after the fact on the VOD or listening after the fact on one of the audio-only platforms, we appreciate you all as well. Thank you for joining us. The show doesn't exist without an audience for it, so thank you. We also welcome you to join our Discord community. You can find the link in the description below, regardless of where you're listening. And it's a place where you can chat with us and other Triple S community members about all the things we love to talk about. Plus, there is game streaming happening all the time in the server now. There's conversations about all kinds of other stuff. You can get the latest updates from us for our YouTube content. And just find some great friends to chat with. Seeing the friendships that have developed through this community has been amazing. So yeah, warms my heart. This has turned into something way bigger than I ever expected. So we really appreciate all of our devoted community members, and a special thank you to all of the supporters on Patreon, channel members on the main channel, subscribers on Twitch. Appreciate you all very, very much. You've seen their names on the top of the screen throughout the show. And so that's just kind of a special way we thank them. But yeah, join the Discord. It's a good place. Good place. Also subscribe here and on the main channel. All right, so some more stories to get to, but I want to read this comment from Wooly Ram. It says, don't mistake what Sony is doing with stupidity. It's a combination of malice and neo-corporate ideology.
I understand, Wooly, and I also contend that I don't believe there's anything more stupid than that. I mean, malice is definitely like a bad thing, but it's also shocking how stupid people are that engage in these practices. You know, just say it.
All right.
But no, I do agree. Because it is in some cases it is a well thought out plan to dominate and control, and it's like the Sony of like 10 years ago wouldn't have done that, and it's so sad to see, because again, the only people that are being hurt are actual gamers and people who care about games. So it's sad. It breaks a lot of their hearts, and yeah. At any rate, so before you get into those, I'm going to talk quickly about this. So there is a new sign up. I'm going to drop this link in the chat. Just if you're listening, you can pick it up right here. For the next few days, there is an open beta for a new game called Elion. Elion is it is that dreaded game that Saib still loves to play, that not many people play with him, and it's very, very sad, and it really breaks my heart. But a new closed beta sign up for Elion, which is an MMO. So that is out. This is made by the people who made Terra, actually, and this is kind of one of those like funny things. Is like I knew that they were working on something, but I didn't hear about this until very recently. So they kind of came out hard and fast just recently. Said, "Hey guys, we're closed beta for this game." It looks interesting. Definitely incorporating. I would say that it's incorporating a fair number of new tech stuff, but not a lot to say that it's really a next gen game. I think this game is pretty normal for what we have coming out over the next year or two. Again, incorporating some new tech, but not as much to really redefine the genre. So that's just like a hey, heads up. Terra was a decent game. I went back and forth to it a couple of times. It was nothing I ever like full on committed to. I never like joined a clan or a guild or whatever you want to call it. But I did enjoy the general like combat pacing and the stuff. It was a very fun challenge. It was, point of fact, it was a little too easy. If there's a game where I can fight a giant world boss and not take any damage, yeah, that's cool, but it's one of those scenarios where it's like and I mean they are in a couple of games. There are a couple of experiences where I was watching a kill on a very, very difficult world boss the other day. The guy did solo, and it took him 3.5 hours to kill the boss, and it involved basically never being hit. So it's like you have to play perfectly for 3 hours straight, no break. He wiped on it like 15, 16 something times like that after like trying to film. And more than once he wiped on 1%. So that's like, oh, that sucks. But when you have those games, so part of me really enjoys it. Part of me is also kind of interested in it. So I don't know very much about this game. Just literally just popped up today here. Just very recently, I was listening to some people talk about it, and then I checked my inbox, and lo and behold, I had an invite to sign up for their closed beta. So you can sign up for the closed beta. It happens. It's happening next month, just for a few days. It's a stress test. Let's face reality. It's not like a special invite. It's just a stress test. So it'll be interesting to see how well they've done and how well they've evolved. And if you're interested, check it out. Because again, I'm always up for an evolution of genre, and I think the MMO is the game of the future. Once they get all the problems sorted out with it, which there are a lot. And if you're wondering what my thoughts on when they'll be able to do that, my thoughts on when they'll be able to do that as a whole is probably about 15 years from now. So again, I am not expecting this to happen anytime soon. I just know that eventually the MMO experience, as we kind of think of it right now, will eventually form into a game of the future that basically takes everything over, because that's where you get the ability to literally live inside of another world. And I think that's something that's probably going to be quite likely that a lot of people would jump at the chance of.
Yeah.
So anyways,
Not me, but okay.
Well, the anime says otherwise.
Well, okay, fine. I mean, for those who want to do that, for sure, that's excellent to hear. I don't think it's going to replace single player story driven though.
Well, I mean, but again, it really comes into how do you define it, right? Because there's a lot of definitions of that I think that I think in any world connectivity is important, and I think that in the future, single player games will start to evolve into that direction. And when I said 15 years, I mean that's the minimum, like the minimum. It could take 30 years from now, but on a minimalistic stance, I think we're getting close to it, and that's kind of going to be interesting. So keep your eye on this one. Looks like an interesting title. I will try and give it a go. I will be returning to my contract work, or the air quotes day job. I will be returning to that soon, and so we should hopefully not have any disruption of our stuff. But if you're interested in playing with that, always let me know. But yeah, that's an interesting thing. I thought I'd pop it up because literally came into my inbox like right before we started the show.
Cube Earther listening on Twitch says this game looks interesting, so very cool. And thanks for listening in on Twitch. And not too many over there yet, but
and you can play miniature. You can play miniature furries, like
What?
Oh yeah. Okay. We're really selling
I know
it now.
everybody's so excited for that. They have literal like miniature like cat race that is like if you remember like Puss in Boots from Shrek.
Yes.
That's exactly basically exactly the character that you can play. So, and then they have a counter race that plays against them, and that is the dog race that looks like a miniature, and they're only like 3 feet tall. So I get like it's quite hilariously cute.
It sounds like you might have to get a second beta key for Moon here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm all over this. You said a lot of the keywords of like small, cute animals. Yes.
Yeah. With enormous eyes, by the way. Yes! Enormous eyes. The two eyes from both the cat and the dog race, if you were to like put them together circumference size and compare them to the human or the elf face, those eyes are bigger than the entire head of the human and the elves. So it's
you know what?
It's hilarious.
Just Moon's reactions are hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting. So So you may see Sybe streaming that on the Discord sometime soon. If they allow that, I don't know. Sometimes these companies have.
I mean, we're like all of these MMOs. I'm always hopeful when a new one comes out, but I'm never like sold on it, right? Like I'm never like, this is gonna be the greatest game ever played. You will love this game. You will love this.
Has there ever been an MMO that has been the greatest game you've ever played?
Well, I mean,
let's
WoW
be honest here.
WoW is pretty darn good. I mean, it has its problems. It has a significant numbers of massive problems. Key amongst them, this little thing called Activision. So there's problems there, and I will be the first to admit that there are substantial problems there that typically, involve me wishing, I could pull my hair out. By the way, I will be live next week with Des Mephisto, talking about a we don't know the date and time 100% yet as far as like when it's going to go live, but we have a very cool interview set up with one of the with somebody from Blizzard. So again, I know a lot of people don't like, a lot of people from our channel not interested in Blizzard stuff. I get that, and again, I'm very critical of them, but it's still something that I wish could succeed properly, and it makes me sad when it doesn't. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, some other stories that we're going to get to here. Some of them you've seen on the thumbnail today, plus some other articles that were sent to us by members of our Discord server. Thank you so much. We love seeing what you are interested in and what you want to hear us talking about. So let's go through them. So just to get this out of the way, because I'm tired of talking about Sony and big greedy corporations, but Epic Games just got $1 billion in investment funding, and one of the investors was Sony. Interesting. This is an interesting move. Now, this comes on the heels of of basically it being reported that over the past 2 years, the Epic Games Store has, I don't know if not lost like the money was flushed down the toilet, but it was in the red. Basically, the Epic Games Store is operating at a loss, and that loss over 2019 and 2020 was about $500 million. So now they've got
a lot of money to lose.
Well, yeah, no, it's not unusual for something.
It's not unusual to lose $1 billion.
I mean, it'd be man. I wish I had $1 billion to lose, but if it's not unusual for a project like that to operate at a loss for a while in anticipation of future gains, but now that I guess there's some big companies that really believe in what Epic is doing, and one of those is Sony, who put $200 million into it just recently. So, I mean, not only does this sort of solidify, Sony's relationship with Epic, but that's a lot for the position that they're in. Sony, not not the huge mega corporation that Microsoft is. Yeah. And they've decided to invest $200 million in Epic Games. I don't know. What do you think about that, Simon? I don't know what to think about it personally.
Well, so I think it kind of boils down to they're probably investing in the engine, and they're investing in the storefront. And I think what we'll see, because what we've seen is that Microsoft has moved very close to Steam recently. I think Steam and Microsoft are in a position where they see that what they have is positive they have a positive ecosystem between platforms, between Xbox and Steam, and they see that by working together, yes, they're not making all the money, but they're making a lot of money. And so if you're in a situation, I love this example. I really do, because it makes me smile. The hot dog was designed at a world fair, not designed, came into be by accident at a world fair. There were 2 stalls that were put next to each other. One stall made sausages, and the other stall was selling bread. And they just so happened to be about the same size of it. And the bread guy said to the meat guy, people are buying your meat and then they're putting it in our bun to walk around and eat it more handily without getting their hands covered in the sausage and in the wet stuff. We should really work on this. And so they ended up putting the sausage in the bun, and then they ended up putting some mustard on it, and lo and behold, the hot dog was born. Now I've heard this story told multiple times. I don't know if that's the exact precise thing of how it happened, but it's like if you have a positive ecosystem that is benefiting you immensely, because this thing was wildly popular at the World Fair, and there were so many people who were like, this is an amazing idea, and it took off like crazy. That's what you need, and that's what makes your business work when you're looking at trying to establish a business. You're looking for things that create positive ecosystems. It's why it's important, if you own a business that's on a street, to keep the street clean and to organize a community thing to keep the street clean. Because if the street is clean and safe, then people visit the stuff. If your game network and your community has positive interactions going from Microsoft games to Steam games to Microsoft games to Steam games, then again, you will have this positive growth happening, and it will create an ecosystem that thrives and builds off of its own thing. If tomorrow both Steam and Microsoft said, we're done with streamers, and they kicked off all streamers and banned all streamers from streaming their games, if they did that, which would be a ridiculous and stupid thing to do, you would kill a vibrant lifeblood of that ecosystem. And so really you have to be really smart when you're doing this stuff, because if you don't do it right, if you try to do too much control too fast, or if you try to do anything that, one-sided, or if you become a single owner entity in an ecosystem, things can screw up. And the minute that you screw up things big enough, you lose everything. And that's why these ecosystems are good and healthy. And that's why I'm a fan of the concept of many hands working together, all having a decent right to own a stake in something and getting something done. I think that's a brilliant idea. Meritocracy works so well in so many situations. So this is one of these situations where I think that it's helping everything work. And what we're seeing here now is we're seeing Sony and Epic trying to duplicate this on their end. That's what's going on here. Epic and Sony are basically looking at Steam and Xbox and going, they have a good thing going here. We need to do our own thing. And again, I said this over a year ago, that expect to see Sony and Epic getting into bed with each other way more often, way more, uniquely. They're going to continue to do this. They're going to continue to try and push this. We've got this big thing with that happened it's on the screen right now. The Epic Games, Fortnite doing a big crossover with I keep on forgetting Horizon Zero Dawn, because it's there's none of those words actually are coherently connected to each other. So I always have difficulty remembering it, but it's one of those scenarios where it's okay, well, apparently it was quite big.
So are you saying that Sony's putting its hot dog in Epic's bun?
Yeah, probably, actually. Yeah.
Willie Ram says the Sweeney is trying to impose console-like conditions on the PC sphere. I'm not surprised Sony's giving them money. Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Can't disagree with that.
Nope.
We have been.
And so, we will continue to see this kind of move. Expect to see a lot more of it, to be honest. Expect to see a ton more of this in the future. This is going to be something that this isn't the last time we've heard about this. And it's just going to really end up taking off here, probably legitimately as this, because I'm sure that this will come to proverbial blows at some point. At some point, these people are going to stop. They're going to stop working together, and they're going to start stabbing each other in the back. And so we'll see how these relationships are tested in the future. So,
Microsoft will just buy Valve.
I'm
kidding. I don't think that'll happen.
I think that'll happen if Gabe passes away. I honestly think that I honestly think that because, it's just a feeling that I have. Just call it intuition. I guesstimate that if he passes away, that Steam will eventually sell itself to Microsoft, especially if, say, that happens in 10 years from now. Let's hope it happens 40 years from now. I think Gabe is a smart, very intelligent person, and I believe he has a right to live a long life. Now,
well, he's going to upload himself into a cyborg body in 2028. Yeah. But that's kind of a good segue to another story we're going to talk about here, but I actually wanted to cover some other stuff first. Just some quick rapid fire stuff. Nintendo may have issued a copyright claim to take down some raunchy Bowser art. We could be next with our comedy series that we've been doing with poking some fun at Nintendo, and
they are going to have a hard time doing this because for a long time now they have been trying to take down things that are considered fair use, and they have been losing every time they do it. And again, Nintendo, I love you sometimes, but in all honesty, you got to stop trying to do this. There is nothing you can do about Rule 34. There is nothing you can do about it. You respect it from a distance, and you just keep your hands off of it. The more you try to control and the more you try to twist things, the more people will be inclined to shove your face in it. So, for the love of God.
Nice. What's that?
It's basically like a hydra you do not want to deal with.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. You want to give them respect, a certain level of respect.
Nice choice of words there. Mm-hmm. Rub your face in it. Keep your hands off it. So this guy, Acco Arcade, created. Oh my goodness. created a very lifelike version of Bowser's Jr. That's how it's reported here. This was a strike that came via Patreon, or a takedown, I should say. So interesting. Anyway, just Nintendo is up to their own, but I also wanted to use it to plug the Gaming After Dark comedy shorts we've been doing. You might find some raunchy, not raunchy, but we had a special guest on that show talking about what's really going on in the Mushroom Kingdom and how Mario's mental state might not be entirely stable. Plus some other stuff. We just want to give you some quick gaming humor. We've been talking a lot behind the scenes, and we want to focus a lot more on the comedy stuff. I have been told many times I should focus more on writing comedy. So that's what we're doing. So so check it out. If you're not subscribed to the main channel, the Triple S League, definitely check that out. All right, so we talked about that already. So Disco Elysium received an unrated rating in Australia. Like, basically their classifications board over there refused to rate the game, which means
oh heavens, what could they have possibly done to deserve this fate?
I can tell you, they have its depiction of heavy cocaine use, violence, and sex.
Oh, let me clutch my pearls. Oh no,
honestly,
this is unacceptable behavior by good people.
I can't, like, seriously, give it an adult rating if you want, but I mean, basically telling the mature adults of your country that they can't play this because it's got this stuff in it, you're treating them like children. I find that disgusting. And I know we've got some listeners from Australia and that area of the world who would probably agree, but yeah, some of the stuff I hear coming out of there, the government control, it's like, okay. Anyway, Steam is still selling it regardless. So I don't know if they're intentionally ignoring the ban. And it really seems like it's a case where if the Australian government really wants to stop this game from being sold there, they're going to have to go after Steam. So anyway, interesting.
Yeah, good luck with that. I'm sure that's not going to backfire on you at all.
Not at all.
I wish these companies, I wish these governments and companies could understand, like, okay, I get it, I do, but at the same time, it's like, this is one of those things where it's like, it's really funny. It was really funny. Today, of all days, I was postulating the conceptual thought around, is people like Marilyn Manson good for your society? And so, yeah, if you want to hop in and have a discussion with me on the Discord, please do so, because yeah, I was giving that a good think over.
Very interesting. Well, that kind of relates to another thing. We got to get moving. Wow, we've been at this.
Yeah, I know. We're pushing later.
But yeah, speaking of the devil, we got Robin in the chat. Welcome. One of our Australian listeners who says, "You are correct. Our government are morons, and we all just use VPNs anyway." So yeah, I mean, Australia can they could ban Steam outright and cost themselves a whole bunch of tax money, and then Australian people are just going to use a VPN anyway. Because what are you going to do over there? You're generally still a free... As far as I know, they're not like China, where you can go to jail for stuff like that. But, I don't know. Anything could happen, I suppose. All right. What do I hear? I'm clicking through all my tabs, totally forgetting that it's live on the screen right now.
Derp.
Okay, you know what? We're going to skip a couple of these. This is a cool story about somebody testing video games to help people recover from a brain fog that's been associated with COVID. So that's interesting.
It's just a cool thing that there are such things, and this is the reason why I wanted to talk about this today. Is like, there is very good sides of gaming, and it takes, like, all it requires is a little bit of time to invest in, finding the good stuff and then focusing on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And video games are so cool that even monkeys like to play them. So you may have seen this story. Elon Musk's company has made some strides in Neuralink, basically brain interface technology. So they've got this is really, really interesting. Now, this article points out how a lot of this has been done before, but it's kind of all come together in this particular demonstration. There's a video you can watch on YouTube called Monkey Mind Pong. But basically, this monkey has been trained to play he plays Pong, but also, he's been trained to play another game where you just move a ball around the screen. He uses a joystick to highlight or to move the ball to whichever square lights up. And he's rewarded with some delicious banana smoothie when he gets it right. So he's learned how to do this. It's very
He's
fun.
learned to do it quite well too. That's the other thing.
They have electrodes in his brain, reading his brain waves and patterns and whatever, that learn. They use that data to program an algorithm that learn his intended movements, and so they can actually unplug the joystick and just have this this Neuralink thing, this thing in his brain, broadcast. This is what the monkey wants to do. And
eventually he won't need the joystick at all. He'll just do it without the joystick whatsoever.
Well,
and he can just lay back drinking banana smoothie as he plays Pong.
Well, that's literally that's how it's progressed here. So you see in this picture, and you can watch it in the video, he's playing Pong. There is no joystick at all.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that part of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
no. So like it progressed. Like it goes from playing with a joystick to playing with a joystick, but the joystick is actually unplugged, so the joystick's not actually doing anything, and he's controlling it with his brain. To now he can play Pong just with his thoughts and get delicious.
Again, this isn't. We're not encroaching on Elon Musk being a supervillain at all. This is entirely, just good, healthy experimentation.
Yeah. All right. So now this has big implications for the medical field, where you could have people being able to just use computers with their thoughts, or amputees, people without limbs or hands or whatever, can are able to use their. I've seen some cool videos of, they already have some robotic limbs that they detect your muscle movement. Like say a person doesn't have a hand, it has a hand that the device detects your muscle movement and figures out from that what you're intending, and it moves the robotic hand like that, but it's very slow and somewhat imprecise. Something like this,
yes,
this could be amazing for people. But then there's always
it's not just this. There will be a day when you're piloting, where construction workers and other hard tech people will be controlling their machines, loading docks, stuff like that, through with their mind, focusing on stuff. I mean, maybe robots take that industry over, but there will come a day where you're able to program and control things, and then at that point, we're talking like Mech Warrior status here. At some point, like we're gonna do Mech Warrior at some point, guys. This is gonna be really exciting. Yeah. I really like where this is going.
Yeah.
So,
Moon, you're going nuts right now because I've got the video playing, right?
Yes,
Watching the monkey, and then he gets his banana.
Also because it reminds me of some of the sci-fi books I grew up reading. Like one in particular is called The Rowan, and literally telekinetic, space, long haul, it's great.
Yeah.
So this is very interesting to me.
Oh, okay. This is kind of funny. So I was telling my wife about this over supper, and I was like, "So we're covering this story tonight about," and then I described everything with the monkey playing the video game with his brain. My daughter's listening wide-eyed. She's like, "Whoa, Dad, you're writing that story? That's so cool." She thought I was making it up, like a story I was writing. I was like, "Oh, well."
No, child, this is now
this
reality.
is real. I was like, Someday when you read my actual stories, I hope you think they're that cool. That was adorable, though. I was like, no, this is actually happening. And she was like, whoa. So anyway, so we play a lot of video games in our household, and the thought of just playing a game with your brain, I think, fascinated her. But it's also it's also scary AF. I mean, come on, let's be honest. We'll be able to robot pilot like war mechs and stuff. Like sci-fi, there's just no boundary between science fiction and reality anymore.
Right.
No, we're getting there real quickly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then the final story that we had on the thumbnail today was about we've got a lot of game companies that love to broadcast signal, if you will, how virtuous they are. You might even call it like virtue signaling. It might be a word for it.
No, I mean, I would call it like virtual, virtue, squawking, maybe.
Squawking, yeah, exactly.
Virtual
Yeah.
squawking.
So they love to pontificate about moral issues here in the West, whereas they go to other countries where certain things are not acceptable. They're more than happy to be hypocrites to get some of that money. But anyway, so Saib, you wanted to talk about well, just let you take it from here.
So I had a friend send me a message, and he was like, "Hey, heads up here. Thought you might enjoy this story. We know how much you support the Taiwan and the movement in Hong Kong and that kind of stuff. Just generally respecting human rights and the ability for people to say what they want without the government throwing them in a gulag of some form to chastise them and quote unquote re-educate them to be proper members of society. I don't think that's a road. I think that's a road we've gone down one too many times in society, in history, and I'm not keen on repeating the experiment anymore. Enough people are in the ground with that. So that's just my general thought. So we do get a little lippy on this from time to time. But I was sent a little note saying, hey, you might like this. And there's a bit of a movement going on right now. And I would encourage people to do their own investigation. Might be a little difficult, but I'm not gonna directly comment on exactly whom this is. I will just merely mention what kind of products they make, and the fact that it is a movement that is growing amongst them. As in that it's not a movement that is it hasn't hit mass yet, but it's starting to happen more and more and more. And that is that there's game developers who design and create games for a certain cultured people of culture, people who like video games with a certain a physical exercise that is utilized typically with members of maybe not necessarily the same sex. Sometimes it's a mixture. Sometimes it's a mix. Sometimes it's with going down to the fish market for a squid.
This is getting very cumbersome.
I know. It's very hard. Adult games.
Sandwich making, if you're familiar with our little metaphor.
Sandwiches. Where you make good sandwiches that tend to produce more small, creatures of some kind or another. So this, there's a studio that's been doing this now, and they're starting to send out a call, and a bunch of other people are starting to jump on board, and they're basically saying that screw what the big mega maniacal country that is currently doing things that are definitely have been proven to be going on, and that they're nightmarish and horrible, and they're terrible, and they're crushing people's rights and freedoms and stuff like that, and reneging on promises and other things like that. And they're saying, hey, you can't play our game unless you're willing to state that you believe that this is not healthy, that that the invasion of a particular island kingdom is not something that you agree with or condone, and that you, by playing this game, promise that you will not support them. So this is really funny, because what this does is that this is twofold. People within this particular country that have been doing these very terrible things, their group, their stuff, like, if they ever find that you have played this game, they will come for you, more or less. Now, they're obviously not going to come for people over in other countries, or maybe not so much so, but it is interesting, and it is cool and unique to see that here's a bunch of small time game developers who make very small games to a very niche community involving sandwich making of a very risque kind, are willing to stand up and say something to a big, gigantic thing that could crush them if they wanted to. Like, really, honestly, they could crush them if they wanted to. But they have the cojones, the balls of brass and steel or titanium, whatever you want to, or that new there's a new magnesium alloy that's even stronger. They got those balls to say, we're not happy with this, and we're not going to stand for this. And our voice might not be big. In fact, our voice might be very, very tiny, but we will still make a stand for this. And they have the balls to do that. And there's big, big, giant corporations who don't have the balls to admit to something that they know is wrong, because they lecture us whenever we don't, we as in the people, we, not like we as in like directly me, or us here, the channel, but we as in the general public aren't supportive enough of certain things that they're saying, hey, you have to be supportive of this or else. I wear a pin. I'm doing this presentation and I have a pin on. But I'm also telling you, don't support a particular person when he, yells something for freedom on on an after show of a competition, and it's just amazing to me to see that what we have is we still have humanity that has a backbone to it, and it's coming from one of the most bizarrely fascinating locations for this to come from.
Do you have? Woolly Ram's wondering
really hilarious.
If you have a link. We don't this isn't an article. This is something
This is not an article. This is I am friends with a lot of people in this particular community of game developers who make games for sandwich, featuring sandwich making. And if you want to talk about it, you'll have to message me directly on Discord, because or Twitter or whatever. Because I can't talk about it openly here, because this is not a game this is not a game that the contents are quite shocking, so I wouldn't talk about it in public too much, but I will give them a nod and say that, guys, I am surprised, because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And again, I don't necessarily condone that. I don't condone the type of game indirectly of what they make in that particular kind of thing. And there's obviously varying levels of stuff. There's like sandwich making light, and then there's sandwich making like extreme.
Yeah. You don't have
and
to,
then there's sandwich making
that's
that, kind of like way past that. That's one of the way past ones. I would be okay talking about it if it was something else, but this is like way past normal stuff. So, but still. I am shocked and impressed that these small, tiny little developers, who I think there's 3 of them on this team, have more balls to stand up and say this isn't right, versus these mega corporations who are shilling out hardcore, selling out for things that they know what's going on. It's not unproven. They know what's going on. A certain mega company recently thanked the people who were responsible for it directly by naming them directly. So again, it's not that you're not aware of what's going on. It's that you're aware and you're supportive because it's money. And that's disgusting.
Yep.
That's absolutely disgusting.
Bunch of hypocrites. Bunch of rich elites telling the rest of us how to be good people, how to be good little lemmings, while they while they just do whatever they want and go wherever the money is and bathe in that hypocrisy. That is interesting, and I want to see more. I don't want it just to be these niche developers. I want it to be more. I want to see indie games. I want to see Devolver. I want to see, hell, I mean, if we could even hope for Microsoft and other companies to make a statement
somewhere.
Well,
right?
yeah. Well, yeah. So we're really the counterculture now, standing up for freedom. But, I mean, that's no surprise. Gamers have always kind of been counterculture and supportive of freedom because we just want to be left the hell alone to play our video games, thank you. And you want to take that away from us? Well, you have now angered billions of nerds. Good luck. All right. And with that, we'll wrap up the show for today. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for the excellent conversation in the live chat. Whether you're listening live or after the fact, we really appreciate you being here. Please slam that like button if you haven't already. We would very much appreciate that. And don't forget, next live show Saturday right here on this same channel. But yeah, every Tuesday night / Wednesday. And then on Saturday, we do live shows right here on Triple S Podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to the main channel where we do our comedy and reviews and game guides. And all kinds of other stuff. We just wrapped up our Cyberpunk 2077 Romance Deep Dive series. If you're interested in that, definitely check it out. All right. And thank you also to our Patreon supporters, channel members, and Twitch subscribers who really help us out. You've seen their names appearing in gold at the top of the screen throughout the podcast tonight, and we really appreciate all of those folks. And we appreciate you for listening. Leave comments below. Subscribe, as I said. Share this around. It's one of the biggest things you can do. We're trying to grow this channel so that perhaps it can be monetized like the main channel. We took a financial hit moving to this other channel, but we are it's trucking along. It's getting there. So, all right, that's it for the show today. Join the Discord. Tell us what you want to hear on the next show. Really appreciate you all. Thank you so much for tuning in at this odd hour. My name is Ash on behalf of Cyber and Moontag. Thank you all so much for listening. We will talk to you again very soon.